What is going on, OGs, converts? This is the Leafs Convo podcast for Vanguard Northeast Realty in Scarborough, vanguardne.ca. It is July 7th, 2019. We're getting a break from the overwhelming heat here in southwestern Ontario, but Mike Augello is about to bring the heat. Michael, how are you, sir?
Good morning, Norman. I am well, and even though it's July 7th, the news in Leafland has not stopped, has not ceased.
We are in the post-Kawhi Leonard era, getting ready for the Alex Kerfoot era. Look out.
Yeah, well, honestly, it's like, I'm not a big NBA fan, but it's sort of sad that the Kawhi has gone to Los Angeles. But I think it was expected, even back to when they traded for him. And now, I really believe the Leafs are now back at front and center in the Toronto sports landscape. And I think with that, there'll be more pressure on Kyle Dubas to get this team to the promised land, and the promised land is winning Stanley Cup. And I think the clock is ticking on Mike Babcock, and the clock is ticking on Kyle Dubas to get things done.
Straight the F up. This is the Leafs Convo podcast for Vanguard Northeast Realty in Scarborough. John Tavares came home in July of 18. Kawhi Leonard goes home in July of 19. It's a wash. On the Maple Leafs, Michael, we know that this team has restructured considerably over the last week since July 1st. Kudos to Dubas and the crew for being very creative in this difficult time for them as they tread forward and trying to reel in one Mitch Marner. How much should we, and going back to the Kawhi situation, there's a plane taking off, there's a plane landing, he was on it, he wasn't on it. So Raptors are the front runners, the Clippers are the front runners, the Lakers, blah, blah, blah. With all of the information going on through social media, what should we believe in terms of who's bluffing, who's accurate, where this thing may end up with the Leafs, an offer sheet, and ultimately the Leafs and Marner coming together on a pact?
Well, I don't know who to believe, and I'll use the Kawhi situation as an example. Up till Friday evening or early Saturday morning, everybody thought the Clippers were out of it, and then he ends up going to the Clippers. That they make the trade for Paul George, and then they sign Kawhi, and everything for them is beautiful. In this Marner situation, I really believe that the offer sheet stuff that came out earlier in the week from Darren Drager and then from David Pagnotta, the fourth period, is a disinformation campaign from the Marner camp. Now, that may be strong, but really, I think the fact that all the insiders, LeBrun, McKenzie, Drager, Elliot Friedman, Chris Johnson are all on vacation. There's a vacuum going on. The Kawhi thing was dominating the scene, and there was literally not much of a mention of Marner until the offer sheet stuff popped up, and now all of a sudden it's a hot button issue. So I think really it's more smoke than fire. And Friedman had something very interesting to say on Friday. He said that he had taken the pulse of a number of teams. There was one team out there that may have been interested in signing to an offer sheet, but that they wanted to sign him to long term. I would assume that means 7 or 8 years. And the Marner camp wants a shorter term, 3, 4, 5 years. Nobody in their right mind is signing Mitch Marner to an offer sheet and risking giving up 4 first-round picks on a short-term deal. Either he has to commit or not commit.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. I can't stand Team Marner, but you know how much I love Mitch, and I know you're in the same boat. He's the most creative player on the team, one of the most creative players in the league. He's the natural, the leading scorer from last season. To not have this guy on the Maple Leafs going forward is a disservice to the organization's aspirations of winning a Stanley Cup. With that said, his damn management team is pissing me off in the same way Nylander's crew ticked us all off, 10 months ago? So this is a tough one, Mike. Mitch Marner is a winger. I mean, let's put a number on him. He's worth 10? I know some people think he's worth 8.5. I don't think he's worth much more than 10 per. What say you? And I mean, in a dream scenario, what are the terms that get it done between Marner's camp and the Leafs, whether it be in a good-natured, wholehearted way or through a period of détente?
Well, it all depends on the term, and I'm of the opinion that if there is an offer sheet, the key factor in it is not going to be the AAV. It's going to be the term,
Okay.
because on a 3-year bridge or a 4-year deal, a 3-year bridge, he's 1 year away from unrestricted free agency and he's arbitration eligible. On a 4-year deal, he's walked right to unrestricted free agency. And there might be teams that are willing to do that, but I don't think it's going to be similar to what happened with Montreal and Carolina. I don't think a team is going to risk offering up 2 firsts, a second, and a third on a 5-year deal, which is what Montreal risked with Aho, and the Marner camp accept in the neighborhood of $8.5 million. They're big game hunting. They want big money. In terms of what the Leafs should match, honestly, I think up to $11.5 million, I think they should match, because then the corresponding move probably is them having to clear cap space by trading William Nylander. And I don't think the Leafs want to do that, but I think that if you're valuing which player is more valuable, Marner is than Nylander, and we'll see what happens.
And that debate will rage on between most Leaf fans and the Nylander rights, and that's all fine and dandy if the end result is in some way, shape, or form both of them on the Leafs, both doing well, both placating and satisfying their fan bases. For guys like us, that's great, because the ultimate is the team doing well and maybe winning a Stanley Cup within our lifetimes. Michael, what else is suiting your fancy right now?
Well, I thought that the contract signings of CC and Kerfoot were pretty interesting. I mean, the Leafs gave up long-term security with the Nazem Kadri trade. He was under contract for $4.5 million for another 3 years, and that was a very economical amount for a 30-goal scorer. But we know, and we noticed last year, the way Kadri played as a third-line center behind Tavares and Matthews, that he didn't exactly, grow into that job. I don't think he liked being limited in terms of ice time, and he wasn't getting that matchup against number one centers as a defensive, sort of a defensive matchup or an antagonistic matchup. Where Kerfoot, they got him signed for 4 years at $3.5 million. He's a good defensive center. He's a quick player. I think, he's 24 years old, so they've got him locked up through the age of 28. I think that's a real good deal for the Leafs, and the salary is commensurate with the level of a third line center. And they signed CC for a year. And I swear to God, if I had $1 for every one of the analytics crowd that was hoping that CC would go to arbitration and the Leafs would walk away. I mean, it's like the numbers are not everything. Now, I want to see what Cody Ceci does, either paired with Morgan Riley or Jake Muzzin next year. And if he sucks, then he sucks.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm willing to give this guy an opportunity. God knows we had defensemen like Ron Haynes, or like Jake Gardner, who had great numbers, but when it came to the time to make the right play or the wrong play, he made the wrong play almost every single time.
Oh, man. Did the analytics crew predict the last 10 Stanley Cup champions? Probably not. The answer is no. Start predicting champions, start predicting winners, and I'll start listening a little bit more. I think it just gets a little bit nuts now. Everything's conformed and configured to whatever narrative is being put out there. All of these guys are good in their own way. Depends on which way you're looking at it. Mike, just a couple more minutes to go. I love what Kyle Dubas has done. I love what he's done in the face of the, this time in his young career as a general manager, in intersecting with what's going on with Marner as a restricted free agent. It's tough, but he's excelled. There's still a ways to go. The players coming in are you can applaud the guys coming in, honestly. But my concern is, come training camp, the focus won't be directed to players from the Marlies who really have no business returning to the Marlies other than to wait a little longer. And I'm talking about Mason Marchment. I'm talking about Jeremy Bracco. I want to win a Stanley Cup. I will, if I had my druthers, I'd put the guys out there who would give me the best chance to do that. That said, I want to see some of these young cats who've cut their teeth in the minors get their shot. But it's a crowded house, especially up front with these Maple Leafs. Should I be concerned about that, Mike?
Well, I mean, I think that the Marley players are going to get a genuine opportunity to make the team. Maybe not as much Bracco, because if they sign Marner, the right side is really loaded up with Marner, Nylander, Kapanen. And you don't want Bracco as a fourth line player because he's got top 9 offensive talent. So it's either him making the top 9 or him playing with the Marlies. I think Mason Marchment has a really good chance to make this team. I mean, one of the things that's been noticed from I took a Q&A from some fans on Hockey Buzz yesterday, and a lot of them were asking questions about the snarl, the size, the strength, the toughness, the things that they didn't have against the Bruins, and how the fact that they really haven't added anything more. And I knew Dubas said was we need our top players to play with that heavy hockey, but you need role players to do that as well. And I do believe that a guy like Mason Marchment, who I think has showed that for 2 years in a row in the American Hockey League, he has a better chance of making the team than, say, Nick Shore or Kenny Agostino, because Nick Shore and Kenny Agostino really are they're fast players and they're role players, but they need some snarl on that fourth line, and I think Mason Marchment's got a really good chance of making the team.
In the 72 Summit Series, were the Soviets skillfully dominant or skillfully better than the Canadians, do you think?
Well,
they had the skill, the finesse, the speed. The Canadians were a bunch of toothless bastards. But who won that series?
The Canadians did, yes. But they did it playing Canadian hockey. They did it with Bobby Clark, slashing Valerie Harlamoff on the leg and breaking his leg.
I know.
That doesn't happen anymore. That's the thing. Unfortunately, that type of hockey is gone, and that was 47 years ago. And in this league, I think what teams need to have is to be versatile, to be able to play heavy hockey and to be able to play skilled hockey. I think the Leafs can play. They're amongst the most skilled teams in the NHL. But if they get into a knockdown, drag-out fight with a team like Boston in the first round next year, I will favor Boston because they can play that hockey, and the Leafs have proved that they can.
Yes. I think a lot of fans want real life to reflect how things go for them on Twitter, to be passive aggressive, to dance around issues, to focus in on what they like, and not really delve into what other people are thinking. If both teams are fast and skilled, but one team's bigger and tougher and doesn't give a shit about the other and will put their glove in the face of the other, who's going to win? If you have that extra, you are going to win. No one's saying let's bring back Colton Orr and Fraser McLaren and let's go and knock the shit out of people. What this is if I'm as skilled as you, as fast as you, but hungrier and more determined, and I'll put your face into the glass, I will beat you. What I'm saying about the Maple Leafs is that the Leafs need some of that. Kyle Dubas knows it. Everybody knows it. There's no reason to be afraid of it. No one's asking for big fights, line brawls, suspensions, concussion, headshots, none of that shit. What's that little extra that's going to take this Maple Leaf team to the next level? And Kyle Dubas might be right in regards to the current Leafs like Matthews and maybe even Barry Gibb and Mitch Marner and these guys wanting it a little bit more, being a little hungrier, being a little more physical going forward. Adding that spice to a game that's pretty nice already, it's going to bode well for them going forward. There's nothing wrong with turning up the damn dial to 1,000 to win something. There's nothing wrong with it. Last word to you, Mike.
Yeah, I think the one concern, and this will be down the line after all the moves that the Leafs have made, you have 3 unrestricted free agent defensemen next year, Barry, Muzzin, and Ceci. And you have Travis Dermott as a restricted free agent. Now, they have cleared some space with the trades of Zaitsev and Kadri, but for if Barry has as good a year as I think he's going to have, they're going to have to probably try to get him signed before next summer. Otherwise, they could lose all three of them, and then they would be starting basically from scratch.
Yeah, it's a living, breathing thing, an entity we all love and care for, and I think Kyle Dubas loves and cares for it more than anybody. I believe in the kid, the guy, the young man, the wise one. I really do, and I'm wishing him all the best. I'm on Team Dubas for sure, and I'm on Team Maple Leafs over Team Nylander and Team Marner. Certainly on Team the Leafs Convo because we're doing it right. Hey, Mike, I know you're a Mustang guy. I have a GT 350R for just over $92,000 up for sale. If you're interested,
I'll have to check my bank account.
have a good one, buddy.
Thanks, Norm.
We would like to thank Vanguard Northeast Realty in Scarborough, title sponsor of the Leafs Convo, demonstrating passion for the industry and a superior level of excellence in selling, leasing, and marketing your property. Vanguard Northeast Realty.